Good morning. Can I please get you to please take your seats so we can get started? We have a full agenda this morning. Good morning. Please, hurry, let's get started. There's all sorts of fun coming on this morning. You won't want to miss it, and you won't want it to stop early. Okay. Is everybody comfy? Okay, settle in, buckle up, here we go. Good morning. My name is Zema Jacobson, and I'm the president of the South County EDC, and I am honored to welcome you to this first panel that we are having with the maritime industry. We are hosting this panel so that we can delve into the intricacies of the businesses here that are representative, and also to help focus on the needs that we in the community have and the demand that these industries have created so that we can go out and market to businesses and bring them into the South County that will help create jobs and economic opportunities for other businesses as they supply and work here in the South County. I would be remiss if I did not say thank you to our sponsor, who has been very gracious in sponsoring today's event. That is Mission Federal Credit Union, and I would like to thank the credit union and also Sally Preston. First and foremost, she is a South County EDC board member, and on the side, she's the vice president and branch manager of one of the credit unions here in town. Thank you. I know we're bosses here, so really, she only spends a few hours with us. As I mentioned earlier, we did a vision plan. We started 2 years ago. We went out and we surveyed 4,500 folks and asked them what they felt the South County needed and what they would look for in the future of our needs. What we did was we recognized some industry clusters. And the one industry cluster that we recognized but we haven't really done much with, was the maritime industry. So, putting our heads together, we decided, let's bring in the stakeholders from that industry and have them have a discussion with us and find out what's needed, what's wanted, and what we can do to partner with them. So, we went to some stakeholders, the Maritime Alliance and the Port Tenants Association and the Port of San Diego, and we put together this great panel. So, each of these panelists is going to share a little bit about their business, what they do, and the history of their business, and where they look to see the future of our community. We also need to have a moderator. And as you know, South County EDC has a member who's a very good moderator, who we use time and time again, who's moderated our last 7 economic summits, and who talks less than I do. So I would like to thank Port Commissioner Duque Valorado for being our moderator, but before I call him up, I'd like to call our sponsor, Sally Preston, with Mission Federal Credit Union, to come and say a few words. And and don't forget to clap because our boss is here.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
So I get a little nervous when I speak in front of people, but I just want to introduce myself, which Zema did. I'm the manager of the Little Italy office of Mission Federal Credit Union. And this is Sam Cardoso. He's the manager of the Terra Nova office, which is on the east side of the 805 freeway in Chula Vista. When we had a board meeting, a couple board meetings back, there was a gentleman who came and spoke about blue water technologies. And I got really excited because I can really see how this could change the South County. There's a lot of opportunity here. So I asked our bosses if they would be willing to help us sponsor this event, and they said yes. We see this industry as having a lot of potential of bringing business into the South County, and with that, of course, it'll create jobs for the people in the communities that we serve. So we're very pleased that we're able to sponsor that today. We handed out some bags, and inside of the bags, of course, is the ask. There are 2 brochures in there with some really fantastic promotionals from our office, from mine and from Sam's. So please take a minute to take a look at that and see if I missed anything. even though Zima did introduce them as our boss, I'd like to introduce, these are senior managers, Srini Rao and Janine Dodman. And Stephanie is our business development representative.
Thank you. And thank you. And thank you for clapping. We really appreciate our sponsors, and we like them to come back and do it some more. And again, thank you all for your generosity today. I want to welcome everyone here. I want to welcome and thank our panelists for agreeing to come and participate and talk openly to us and answer our questions. And at this time, I'm going to shut up and sit down. I'm going to introduce our Port Commissioner. It's my privilege to introduce Port Commissioner Duki Valderrama, who will be moderating our panel today. Thank you so much.
First of all, thank you very much, Zima, for chairing South County EDC, and South County EDC, thank you very much for putting on this tremendous event today. Before we go into introducing the panelists, I don't know where you can go into South County and have mayors of 3 respective cities. We've got Imperial Beach, Chula Vista, National City. We have council members from the respective cities. Want to thank Southwestern College for utilizing this beautiful facility. We have the president of the college. We have a lot of other dignitaries here. So I want to first of all thank each and every one of you. Like I said, there's not many places where you can go and find this kind of representation of elected officials. I don't know how long each one of the elected officials are going to be able to be here today, but if you get an opportunity, by all means, get them in the corner and ask whatever question you have. That's what they get paid to do. So once again, it's my pleasure. My name is Duki Valderrama. I'm a Port Commissioner. I represent the city of National City. I've been a Port Commissioner for 10 and a half years. 10 and a half long years, may I add. But it's been really truly a pleasure and an honor for me to be able to be up here today, to be able to have so many people that are interested in the maritime industry. So what I want to do at this given time, I'm going to introduce the panelists to my left. Each one of them is going to be able to discuss a little bit about their respective business, and then I will be asking them some questions, and then we will also have a question and answer process later on that you may ask anything that you want to ask regarding their respective company or anything in the maritime industry. If none of the panelists can answer the question, or I can't answer the question, I know we have port staff here and city staff that from all the respective cities that can potentially or will be able to probably answer the respective question. And if we can't answer that question, we will make sure that we get back to you with whatever questions you may have. So at this given time, it's my pleasure to be able to start off to my left. We have Bob Kober, who's the Vice President and General Manager of BAE Systems of San Diego Ship Repair. Before I turn it over to him, I want to make sure that I introduce the rest of the panelists. Next to him, we have Steve Johnson, the operating partner of TYK. Next to him, we have Stan Cabrera from Pescia Automotive. Stan is, I've known Stan for 10 and a half years. He's done an excellent job with Pescia. Next to him, we have Todd Roberts from Marine Boat Works, and he will get up and talk about his company. And then we also have Kurt Nelson from Orca Maritime. So we have some distinguished individuals, all with expertise in their respective fields. And so what I'm going to do at this given time, I'm going to turn it over to Bob. He can come up and talk about his business for a couple of minutes to give you a little bit of background on who they are.
Thanks, Duki. I want to start off this morning by introducing the company, BAE Systems, who we are, what we represent on the waterfront, where we're located, et cetera, and what we're doing for the community. Starting off with, we're one of the largest defense contractors in the world, usually in the top 3. We employ approximately 88,000 employees worldwide, 40,000 in the U.S., and approximately 6,000 in the ship repair industry. Within the port itself, we have roughly 2,000 employees working in San Diego. One of the things we always start off our presentations with is safety. It's the key to our industry. We take a lot of pride in what we do on a day-to-day basis, and we stress safety. Every presentation, every meeting we have throughout the entire day, every conference, we start with safety. As a benchmark, we're 60% below the industry average for recordables and lost time injuries, so we take a lot of pride in that. Just this past week, we finished our 3rd annual inspection. We've now been through safety, environmental, and QA with outside audits. There wasn't a single major or minor fault found from any of those audits. So again, very proud of our safety record in this port. What we are, we're a full-service shipyard. We pretty much do everything here in the port. Several shops, we do everything from machinery to painting in our facility. Very small footprint on the waterfront, approximately 17 acres, but we do a lot of volume of work. Approximately 3.5 million man-hours per year it's done in that facility. Who we are, 2nd, 3rd generation employees here. Been on the waterfront over 30 years. When we have employees come to work with us, they want to stay here. They really like the working environment. We do a lot within the business, and we also do a lot in the community. Here's some of the community investment support programs we actually run. Very proud of, I'll highlight a couple of them. Living Coast Discovery Center, I saw Susan here earlier, and Ben, nice to see you here. Great project they have on the waterfront in this bay. I'm proud to be on the board with them. I used to, when I first came to San Diego, I moved to Chula Vista. I used to go on field trips with my kids, and now I'm going to their same field trips with my grandkids. So it's a great program. If you haven't been there, foot of East Street, it's hands-on. It's great to go there and see the kids running through the exhibits, running through the trails. It's hands-on. So great project. The food bank, we just a couple months ago, we had a food raiser. In a couple weeks, we raised over 2,000 pounds of donations for the food bank. And I'm proud to say on weekends, we have employees that actually go to the distribution center and help package up the food for our needy in the community. Again, a great event within this port. I think it was the numbers were staggering. It's like 370,000 meals per month they provide. It's amazing. One of the things we take very seriously is our footprint within the community. We want to make sure we're good stewards of the bay. We take a lot of time to make sure we're in compliance with all the environmental regulations, and we go beyond just our footprint. On Wednesdays, twice a month, we have volunteers that go out and look on the other side of Harbor Drive, Main Street, all the surrounding areas, and we clean up. We know that even though we may not be out in that community, we may have people that are transiting through there. So you have debris that accumulates. We walk the railroad tracks. We make sure we collect that trash. Again, it's important for us to be good stewards of our community. One of the things that's really the focal, and I think the focal point for the presentation today is what are we doing to support the maritime industry. The Navy's been very forthright in advertising in the next 5 years that there's more ships going to be home ported in this port, approximately 19 by 2020. That's a 30–40% increase in the number of ships based in this port. So when you start looking at those numbers, looking at the number of sailors that man up those ships, that's a significant increase for this port. So as us as business owners, it's incumbent to make sure we're positioning ourselves to support the fleet. Okay? We have to make the improvements today to make sure by 2020 we're ready to support that maintenance. These ships are going to be required to be maintained, whether it's here in San Diego or some other port. It's going to happen. So it's key that we build today to make sure those ships stay here for their maintenance. If we don't have the infrastructure here, those ships are going to go somewhere else to get that maintenance accomplished. Along the lines of environmental and good stewards of the bay, one of the big projects we're happening right now is our bay remediation. That's a joint effort between the port, the city, SDG&E, ourselves, a couple other companies, but we're cleaning up the bay. We're dredging in our yard right now, taking off all the bad sediment to make sure we're in compliance with the current environmental requirements. We're taking out all the mud, if you will. We're putting in new sand, and by the end of this year, we'll actually be planting eelgrass to reestablish the habitat for the marine life in this bay. Modernization within the facility, I mentioned about the infrastructure, make sure we're in a position to support the Navy. We've gone through all of our shops. We've modernized the shops. Here's some of the things that we've done just recently. We've modified our existing dry dock to make sure we can accommodate the new LCS platform, the 2 variant that's coming into this port. We've added new shaft lathes, new electric shop, paint booth, etc. A lot of improvements done in our facility. The Pier 4 modernization, this was just commissioned approximately 2 months ago. We had 3 congressmen there to recognize this investment. It's approximately a $25 million investment in this port. We took an old pier, we called our Pier 4. We ripped it out. It had been there 50 years. We put in a new modernized pier to make sure we can support the new fleet coming out with the power requirements and all the maintenance needed to maintain the ships. This was roughly a 2-year project, started in September of 2012. 2.5 years to go through all the regulation requirements and the maintenance to get this ship operational, get this pier operational. The Lake Erie just recently undocked a couple weeks ago. She's currently at Pier 4 North, so she's the first ship to benefit from this new pier. And our new addition to the bay. This is the big one. We've now invested $100 million in a new dry dock for this port. Okay. This dry dock will take pretty much anything that'll fit underneath the Coronado Bridge. Okay. In comparison, the dock that's currently there, when you go over the bridge, you see the POSD and the flag, Pride of San Diego. That's a 26,000-ton lift capacity dock. The new one that's being built right now is a 55,000-ton dock. So pretty much we can dock anything that's in the naval station. Actually, we can dock 2 DDGs, 2 CGs at one time. Why is this important? Because this port was really limited with the amount of dock space. You figure each ship needs to be docked approximately every 7 years. You've got 60 ships and only 2 docks in the pier. You run out of dock space really quick, which means those ships are going to have to go somewhere else to get that maintenance done. With this investment, we help the Navy keep the ships here in this port. And it helps all the businesses that support the maritime industry as well. All those subcontractors, vendors that go with that, material providers, etc. The takeaway from this, I just want to emphasize that we really stress safety on the waterfront. It's very important to us. We really value our employees. And it's very important that as a maritime business that we set the infrastructure today, because we know those ships are coming here in the next few years. We want to keep those ships here, make sure we have the maintenance space to support them. And we have a really good long-term working relationship with the Navy. We want to make sure we maintain that, as well as with the community. Thank you.
As you can see, this is one company that does a lot, 2,000 employees. You see their safety record, you see their expansion. This is a major player on the waterfront, so we're very pleased to have BAE System as part of our maritime industry. Next person up that we're going to have is Steve Johnson. He's the, if you look at the bio and you'll see there, I'm just going to want to, I think it's very important. He bought the company and had $900,000 of revenues, and you see what he's done, how he's expanded the revenue. This is a growing company, and being a National City resident, I'm very pleased to be able to say that he's housed in National City. So, Steve, my pleasure.
Well, first of all, I'd like to start off by saying that we have 1,800 less employees than BAE. But we want them to look in the rearview mirror. No, just kidding. We are a subcontracting firm that will probably always be a subcontracting firm, and we do work for BAE, NASCO, CMSD, and Lockheed Martin. Our story is kind of unique. We bought a company that had been in business for about 25 years that had 11 employees, and 10 of those employees were deck plate laborers, and the other 2 employees were basically myself and my partner that came from different industries. And after 6 months being in the business, I was definitely getting up in the mirror, looking at myself, asking me, you know, what I got into. But I can honestly tell you I am so excited about our waterfront business. We basically had those 11 employees for a year and grew the company. On the second year, we did $3.9 million. We learned the industry. We started off basically rehabbing the facility barges. And from there, we grew and got work from NASCO. And our second year, we did 3.9, and our third year, we did 7.9, and our fourth year, we actually did 7.9, and then last year, we did $20 million in business. And so the waterfront business, I want you guys to share my excitement because it is such a great opportunity. We've been very, very fortunate to surround ourselves with people that really know the business and enjoy the excitement of watching us grow. Our original facility was around 3,000 square feet, and from there we branched into the parcel that was right next to ours, which was probably about 2,500 square feet, and then purchased a 11,000 square foot parcel right on McKinley. And then from there, we acquired a company called Corpro, which was doing what we do, which is blast and paint preservation of the interior tanks, superstructures, freeboards, underwater hulls for the ships. And then from there, we were able to negotiate a deal and buy a 2-acre facility that was another company that had been in business about 40 years called Bay City Marine. We were actually going to close Bay City Marine, but we really had a great liking for the employees that have been there 30 to 40 years, and they wanted to see Bay City Marine come back. We shared in their excitement, and Bay City Marine had not made payroll for basically, they were on the alternating payroll system. They would pay you this payroll period, and then you'd have to skip a payroll period, but you got the IOU, and we would pay the other half of the company. They had about 8 employees. Now that company is about 2 years old, and they're going to do $6 million this year. Last year, they in the books did $3.9 million and have 75 employees. And YYK now has 210 employees. So it's real exciting. And the great thing about our business is really there's a lot of expertise that can be achieved from somebody that just comes in at maybe a $10 wage laborer that can grow into being a deck plate supervisor, and from there they can go in and be a ship superintendent. And the pay grade for the laborers runs between $12 and $15 an hour, and then from there the deck plate supervisor can go to from $40,000 to $50,000 a year. And then when you get to superintendent, you're looking at, depending on how good a superintendent you are, between $60,000 and $70,000 a year. And then you can grow into a program manager, which pays right around $100,000 a year. And depending on your background and your education, we can create opportunities for people to move into the safety department. We can create opportunities for people to move into estimating. And actually, we have an estimator, and these are the kind of things that being an owner really, I think, makes all the long hours worth it. But we have an estimator that basically was a $10 guy when we bought the original YYK, and now is making about $150,000 a year, has a nice home, family, kids, lives locally. And those things are pretty exciting for us. We also have a QA department that's very, very detailed, takes a lot of practical experience and then book knowledge that we're allowed to send people off and have them certified by NAVC and do our QA processes. And just recently, we teamed with NASCO on a LCS project that was awarded, and I want to give you the numbers here. I believe we are going to be working on the LCS ships. 70% of the work is going to be right here at 32nd Street, and the other 30% of the work is going to be in Southeast Asia, in Singapore, possibly the Philippines, and also Guam. And right now for that position, we're looking to hire probably right around 50 people. So we are hiring. I think everybody probably on this panel is hiring. It's a lot of really good opportunities, really good paying jobs, and for the local community, one of the huge benefits that I see for the local community is either directly or indirectly, all of our revenue dollars come from the federal government. Whether we're working for the large primes like BAE, NASSCO, Continental Maritime Marine, or Lockheed Martin, those dollars are originated from the federal government and they flow through to our company. Our payroll last year, just on the YYK portion, was $10 million. So basically, we have a $10 million payroll that is originated from the federal government that's being spent locally. And those local dollars, to me, are huge because those people are shopping in our local grocery stores, creating that sales tax, creating those jobs there, and then ourselves as a company with $20 million in revenue, 10 of it going to payroll, $1 million of it going to workman's comp. What that does is that generates for us the opportunity to shop local. I mean, I can just give you, we buy our vehicles local, we buy, all of our supplies local, we buy all our paint tips local from other little small companies that keep people working. So it really kind of starts with the big primes, the BAEs being gracious enough to let us come in and do our expertise and working with them, and also partnering with them on major projects. I think this LCS contract, when it's fully, I got to tell you the number here real quick. The overall number between now and just April is $96 million. And, April of 2016 is really not that long away, and that's just one contract. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have had this opportunity. We basically started a little company. We're still a little company compared to the big companies, but, it's just nice to be able to, watch people grow that come in, because in all fairness, there's a lot of good people that really just need a little direction. And if someone can take that time and give them direction and give them that self-worth, and they go out and then they can, in change, train other people and bring them along, it's very, very dynamic. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
That's pretty impressive. I retired and sold my businesses a couple of years ago, and I was looking for a part-time job. Should have went to him for $10 an hour. I could be making $150,000 now. I think I missed my opportunity. But it's great to have them in National City. His shop is, I lived at 1814 McKinley when I grew up, so it was right across the street from where your yard's at right now. So a lot of fond memories where you have your operation. Next one up is Stan Cabrera from Pacia Automotive, big tenant here in National City. A fan of his out in the crowd too. You must owe him money. So anyway, without further ado, Stan Cabrera from Pacia.
Todd, perhaps you could help me with the audio-visual piece? See if I can find my presentation. assuming it's loaded on here, or do I need to? Anyway, good morning. Thank you for taking the time and interest to basically get updated on the maritime industry in San Diego. Yes. Thank you. You can obviously see my technical skills. My name is Stan Gabar with the Pasha Group. I'm the Executive Vice President of Business Development. I had the privilege 25 years ago to come to San Diego and basically open up the National City Marine Terminal to the concept of handling finished vehicles for import and export through San Diego. I'll go through it a little bit more in detail later, but originally built as a container terminal, it was a great plan. Executive Director Don Nape had a vision with Mayor Waters to create a major container terminal for all the small carriers. Unfortunately, steamship deregulation caused an uncompetitive advantage in the marketplace, and all the small carriers got bought up by the big steamship lines. Consequently, this terminal sat empty for 12 years. The Pasha Group is a freight management and logistics company. It's a family-held corporation made up of over 35 different companies. This year, since our opening, we'll be handling over 5.5 million automobiles. We have a $47 million payroll annually with that's actually 593 employees now. And over 50% of them reside in South County. Out of the 35 companies, we're divided into 5 core business groups that relate to National City. And it would be automotive services, which is the vehicle import and export, maritime services, we are the stevedores, we are vessel charterers. We do military and commercial household goods distribution worldwide. We have a military vehicle transportation service where we operate for the Department of Defense. I'll show you the other locations where we operate. And then our Pasha Hawaii lines, which currently consist of 2 U.S. flag vessels. The second vessel, the Marjorie C., just deployed last week. I know many of the port and officials were there for the blessing. The actual inauguration or christening will be over in Hawaii. The key locations we operate in is San Diego, California, Baltimore, Maryland, Grays Harbor, Aberdeen, Washington. Another story of a port that used to be the largest logging port on the west coast of North America, went through a significant transition and sat fallow for about 6 years. We again went with a business plan as currency devaluation affected global trade. We came up with an export proposal for Grays Harbor 6 years ago and are currently exporting more than 100,000 Chrysler vehicles to China, Korea, and Japan as we speak. We also have just created a memorandum of understanding in Port Manatee. We think that Cuba, the Caribbean, South America, Central America will be a significant trading partner going forward, and we're putting strategic plans together for Port Manatee in Florida to service that market. Our stevedoring terminal in Los Angeles handles the most steel tonnage through the North American West Coast. We also have a terminal in Honolulu, Hawaii for our Hawaii service. This is the question that I'm asked most often: why National City Marine Terminal in San Diego? We were getting pushed out of Los Angeles and Long Beach by containers. The same place you can park 2 cars, you can stack 8 containers. The economics are revealing. So when we came to San Diego, we actually offered the National City Marine Terminal to one of our customers, the Volkswagen Group. Fortunately, they never came to agreement with the Port of San Diego. Consequently, gave us an opportunity a year later, and here we are 25 years later. We also met with labor. That was actually the first thing we did, is come down and meet with labor, the Teamsters and the Longshore Union, to say, is this something you really want to see? As well as National City and the port. And in that business plan, there was an artist rendering. It sits in our office today. And I created that, or had that created in 1989. And it is exactly what you see at National City today. Every bit of the plan was executed in conjunction with the partners of labor, port, and the city. One of the things strategic about San Diego to the Pacific Gateway is we actually sit east of Reno. And if you look at that logistically for the Pacific Rim, we're closer to most of the southern manufacturing plants. Mexico, we actually are the first port out of Mexico. Mexico is probably going to be one of the leading automotive producers within the next 10 years. They've already surpassed Canada, closing in on Japan, and they have trade agreements with 42 different countries versus the US, which I believe is 2 or 3. So San Diego becomes a very, very strategic location. One of the things that make San Diego and National City Marine Terminal very effective is the rail infrastructure that we have. The land bridge, which is 120 rail car positions on dock, can allow 2 unit trains to be built for export and import of automobiles. Consequently, we'll offload a vessel in 72 hours. A train will already be headed on its way to Texas. So we try and balance what we do here in San Diego, not only in our work, action in the community, but create a balanced portfolio to create value-added jobs, meaning that the employees that come in have full-time employment, we can afford to pay benefits, and it is a job that you can build a career around. This is a list of all of our customers. We have just about everybody, including the rental car fleet, always looking for creative ideas to create new opportunities to utilize San Diego and the National City Marine Terminal. As I mentioned, these are the jobs that we typically do for the full service on dock. We have prep centers, inspectors, painters, mechanics, anything that can be done to a vehicle, we can do at the National City Marine Terminal. Again, that ties all of the customers, the trading infrastructure, the transportation partners to a specific location. This model has been significant for the Family Health Corporation for the last 67 years. Just a glimpse of the on-dock rail operation. Highly efficient. We were the first ones on the West Coast to have on-dock rail. We replicated this same infrastructure up in Aberdeen, Washington. The beauty of Aberdeen, Washington, again, another strategic location, is it saves the vessels that carry 90% of the global trade from going into Seattle, Tacoma, saving 44 hours a call, or up the Columbia River to Portland and Vancouver, Washington, saving 36 hours. Again, we plan, or the family plans, they've got 15 grandkids to take care of, so they need jobs in the future. But they'll be in this business for the next 500 years. I talked to the Department of Defense and Commerce. The family went on a limb about 12 years ago, well, actually it's 14 years ago, building the first U.S. flag RoRo PCTC, pure car truck carrier for the Hawaii trade. Every 2 weeks, this vessel comes and goes from the Hawaii Islands back to San Diego. We just introduced a second vessel, the Marjorie C, which is called a Conroe. It's a container and roll-on, roll-off vessel. Again, U.S. flag, very unique. You'll see these vessels in Europe, but there is no other one in the U.S. currently. This is just an example of all of the diversity of cargo that we handle. I think it's a testament to the expertise of all of our employees. We also operate a trucking fleet of 225 trucks. So what we look for in the locations that we choose is a partnership with obviously the property holder, the community, the business leaders, and create a synergy where we can grow the business, expand the business, and create opportunities with all of our customers and all of our trading partners, be it the steamship line, the railroad, the trucking company, the manufacturers and distributors. One of the newest developments has been short sea shipping. It's something we've advocated for the last 5 or 6 years. As rail construction declines, the rail cars decline in North America, and more automotive production is in Mexico. These rail cars are going farther. We're seeing fewer and fewer of them. So one of the alternatives is short sea shipping, and no better a strategic location than San Diego to take these vessels from Mexico as the first U.S. port of entry. We're currently doing that with Hondas and Mazdas produced in Mexico and General Motors products going up into Aberdeen, Washington. That's it, and just a picture of some of our locations. Thank you very much.
What Stan didn't say is that he is the biggest revenue producer for the Port of San Diego, so they provide a lot of business. You know, if you notice the number of vehicles that they deal with, a few times that I've been on the port, when you're a teenager, everybody has pictures of cars on their walls that this is the car I want, you know, and people say, oh, a Lamborghini. First time I've seen a Lamborghini in real was at their port, so I mean, they wouldn't let me drive it, they wouldn't let me touch it, so that tells you how smart of a business people they are not to let me touch that vehicle. Next person we have to come up and talk is Todd Roberts, one of the principals of Marine Boat Works. They've got facilities in Chula Vista and National City, so we're very proud to have them in National City. So without talking any more about the business, Todd Roberts.
Good morning. So have you heard enough about boats? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, well, you're going to hear a little bit more about boats. Marine Group's a little unique, a little different than our big brothers at BAE to the north, and certainly a bit smaller than Pasha, who runs a first-class operation, and we enjoy having them as our neighbor in National City. The Marine Group is a family-owned business based here in San Diego with 2 locations, one in Chula Vista and one in National City. Our Chula Vista facility is 1 million square feet of land and water. So to put that in perspective in boatyard world, you can take all of the boatyards in San Diego, meaning our National City facility and everything in Shelter Island, and put them inside of the Chula Vista facility. The second biggest boatyard in San Diego, and I'm excluding NASCO and BE as a shipyard, is our National City facility, which we're very proud of. National City has some unique perspectives that it allows us to execute construction on our new build projects that we're currently doing for the U.S. Navy. So what makes the Marine Group a little different? Again, a family-owned business, 200 employees. Our average pay rate is twice or double the living wage here in San Diego County. We offer full medical, dental, vision, and a matching 401k program for all of our employees at both locations. And we'd hire as many welders and pipe fitters as we could get our hands on tomorrow morning. So our business is growing tremendously. So a little different about our model than some of the folks you've heard today. Government business or Navy business only makes up about 1/3, actually a little less than 1/3 of our business. So we're 1/3 new construction, primarily for the Navy. So we're building boats. We're building and fabricating a product in Chula Vista and National City, and we're sending it out all over the world. No reaction? That's something we don't do in California, people. Matter of fact, we come up with reasons not to do it. But this is what we're doing at the Marine Group. We're building a product. Our men and women are putting their hands on steel and aluminum. They're fabricating something, and we're sending it out. And we take a tremendous amount of pride in that. So that makes up 1/3 of our business. The other 1/3 is commercial repair. We bring tugboats, fishing boats, barges, and within that segment we call some of the government repair. We do repair on naval vessels and these commercial boats. Now, what's unique about what we do from other small boat yards is our business is coming from outside of San Diego, and we're bringing new, fresh meat into San Diego. We're bringing new money into this economy. We're not stealing somebody else's business. We're not taking business from the Burger King up the street. We're bringing boats from Seattle. We're bringing boats from Mexico. We're bringing boats from Washington State, San Francisco Bay. The two major ferry operators in San Francisco Bay bring their boats to San Diego for refit and repair. And that's unique. That's something that we're very proud of. I mean, we're going to do almost $25 million in ferry repair over the next 2 years out of San Francisco Bay alone, and we do that in our Chula Vista facility. So then you say, what's a third? Well, a third is what everybody loves to talk about, the big flashing mega yachts, and that is a substantial part of our business. The Marine Group hosts one of the largest mega yacht repair facilities in the world. We're actually the 4th largest in the world. What is a mega yacht? These are the boats that start around 120 feet and go up to 350 feet. In our Chula Vista location, we work the boats up to about 200 feet, and then in a new $2 million dock facility we just installed in National City, we had a mega yacht in there last week that was 365 feet long. So what are we doing with these mega yachts? We're doing everything. We're painting them, we're sandblasting them. We're a full service shipyard, and I won't repeat what Bob did, but we do everything BAE does. We just do it on a little bit smaller scale. But the same trades, you know, we're still welding, we're still painting, we're still machining, we're still insulating, we're doing a little bit of everything. But what we do on these yachts is we bring an interior function in, which generates a huge economic indicator for what's happening in this community. There's an audited financial report that we had done, and it translated from the Miami-Dade County that we did ourselves as well here in San Diego. When a mega yacht comes to San Diego, for every dollar they spend in that boat yard, $7 gets spent in the community. So I want to say that again. It's a 7-to-1 ratio, and we're not making this up. This isn't an economist who came up with this. This is an audited report. So how is that possible? Why is that different than, say, a Navy ship, or why is that different than a commercial fishing boat? It's what we call the soft goods. The yacht that we had in National City, we didn't invite Ron down for the tasting because we were afraid. But when this yacht left, they left with the largest single order we've ever made with Southern Wine and Spirits. We put $170,000 worth of wine on this boat when they left. So you say, how did you get to your 7-to-1 number, Todd? Well, that's how. We just buy booze. But that's, it really is true. The crews are enormous, you know, and they're not Navy crews, so they're not put in a barracks barge, they're not put on base. So we've got a 25-person crew that comes off these yachts. We put them in hotels. We put them in rental homes in Imperial Beach. We have 6 homes on rent in Imperial Beach on the beach right now because we have to house these crews, and these crews live to a slightly different standard than the sailors on your typical Navy ship do, and they shouldn't, but they do. And it's nice to have a boss that says, sure, you can have a beach house for the next month. We rent homes in Imperial Beach. We buy wine. We buy groceries. We buy pillows. We buy 5,000 count sheets. We buy things that'll blow your mind. And the list goes on and on. So that's a terrific business for San Diego. And what I love about it is it's new. It brings business in from outside of this community. It brings in business from outside of this country. And we're doing it here. How many times can the U.S. say, we import business? It doesn't happen very often. Why? Because we have support from terrific cities like National City and Chula Vista that says, we want you here. We want you to do business here. If the facilities aren't embraced by the Port of San Diego and by these cities, this business is going to happen, folks. Guess what? Larry Ellison's boat's getting painted. Somebody's going to paint it, so why not it be us? And we can, but we have to have the facilities to do the work, and we have to have the support to do the work. Of our 200 employees, 53% of our employees live south of the Coronado Bridge. Of the $27 million we spent with vendors last year, 36% of that was spent south of the Coronado Bridge. So this is a vibrant economy here, and it can be bigger and greater, but we've got to embrace work where you live programs, which is the Marine Group heavily recruits in the South Bay. We want our people to live in the South Bay. We want them to work in the South Bay. I don't want to hear another guy tell me I just drove an hour to get to work. And, you know, and I have a few people that live in Temecula, and it blows my mind that these folks do this every day. Well, why do they do it? They do it because it's a great job. They do it because they love boats, and they do it because they love being on the water. And that's a little bit about what the Marine Group is. I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of statistics. Like I said, we do everything Bob does. We just do it on a micro level. But I think the takeaway I'd like you to have about what we do is that boat repair, different than ship repair, is a vibrant part of this community. It's a long tradition. You know, in Shelter Island, we had the Kettenberg family who built boats here in San Diego. We had Pool Boats that was located in Chula Vista that built most of the existing sport fishing fleet. San Diego has a long history of being a boat builder and being a boat repair yard or a boat repair community, and we want to continue that, and we want to continue it here in the South Bay. And instead of trying to duplicate the business model you see in Shelter Island up in San Diego, where it's the traditional smaller yacht, we went to the other extreme of the spectrum. We said we're going to bring these super yachts to San Diego, and we're going to take them to Chula Vista because nobody else wants them. Matter of fact, I have to tell you, and I don't mean to pick on anybody, but when we came up with this idea in 2000, we went to the Port of San Diego and we said, we want to put in the largest boat lift in the world, and we want to bring mega yachts to San Diego. And the port looked at us and said, there's no such thing as a mega yacht. They're not coming to San Diego. Well, we're 2 boatyards deep now, and a marina. The marina today is at 100% and will be for the next 7 months. And the boatyards are both running at about 95%. To give you a comparison, at 3 million man hours, Bob, you guys are running, we're going to run about 450,000 man hours between the 2 facilities. So that's what I've got about the Marine Group, and thanks very much for taking the time to listen.
If that doesn't get you excited talking about the mega yachts out there, another good businessman. They wouldn't let the mayor or me on the boat or the yacht that had $170,000 worth of wine. We probably would have put a little dent in it. Not that big of a dent, but still, once again, there was a smart businessman. They know better than to let us on. Now we're going to go into a little bit of different direction. We've got Kurt Nelson here from Orca Maritime. I don't think you're going to be talking about all the ships you build. He's going to come from a different perspective, but maritime is not all about ships. And so at this given time, I'm going to allow Kurt to come up and explain what Orca Maritime does.
Well, Orca Maritime is a small company out of Imperial Beach, and I live in Imperial Beach, and my commute is less than a mile, so I love it, and we're not leaving for the foreseeable future, having to battle the traffic coming here this morning. I'm thinking this is just down arrows, or there we go. Okay, so Orca Maritime was founded in 2006 by myself and my business partner Tony Rogers, who lives in Coronado, and I never let him live that down. But the idea was hatched when he and I were serving in Iraq, and we were clearing the ports of Qasr, Azerbaijan, and up to Basra when we went in with the 15th MEU, the Marines, and the British 3 Commando, and we were tasked with clearing the KA and the KZ waterways for the humanitarian effort to come into Iraq. And we introduced at that time unmanned systems in the Navy, and although the unmanned systems were already in place in the Navy in an experimental form, we actually brought them operationally. So we brought unmanned underwater vehicles, which you'll see here in the presentation, marine mammals, which are used for finding underwater mines and IEDs, and combat divers, which we had a command. I was the command master chief, and he was the CO. Tony was the CO of Naval Special Clearance Team 1, which had SEALs, EOD techs, Marine recon, Special Warfare combat craft operators, and Navy divers. So being the senior enlisted there, keeping all that testosterone in check was very difficult. So it was a great opportunity for us to cut our teeth on what we were going to eventually offer to the commercial sector. So our background is obviously explosive ordnance disposal, underwater mine countermeasures, and here it is in front of me. Diving and salvage. I was a deep sea diver for 10 years before I went into EOD for 17. Tony has 18 years in EOD as active duty. And we also provide geographic information systems. And everybody's familiar with Google Earth, correct? Well, we do underwater. Google Earth kind of stops at the surface, although they do have bathymetry, which is those nice colorful maps that you see on Google Earth, but we go one step further and provide other layers of underwater infrastructure and data. So our services, we're a service company. We don't manufacture anything. We don't build widgets or anything like that. We actually are a service company, and we We provide unmanned underwater vehicles, remotely operated vehicles, diving operations, and consulting to the Navy. We're on contract right now with SPAWAR to run their operations and their training side of the unmanned underwater vehicle program that they have going. We do a lot of work over in Fifth Fleet, which is the Bahrain area, and it looks like we're going to be moving to other areas, not just necessarily with the U.S. Navy. And underwater mapping and site management, GIS site management. So unmanned underwater vehicles. You can see there that we run all the major vehicles, the Gavia, which is Teledyne Gavia. It's out of Iceland, a company out of Iceland. We have the Bluefin, which was bought by Battelle, very large companies. The Remus, which is a Kongsberg company, and then up at the top there, the yellow one is a Ivor, which is a local company out of Boston, the Boston area, Fall River specifically, which is a little bit out of Boston. But those are the vehicles that we run for our clients, and we use them for detecting mine-like contacts for the Navy, reacquire and identify for mine-like contacts, and we also do UXO remediation. We're going to be heading off to Tarawa, some of the islands in the South Pacific, to do some work for the United Nations, specifically the Geneva International Center for Humanitarian Demining, for all the explosive remnants of war from World War II. And so we'll be mapping the main area where they're going to be doing some dredging in Tarawa to help the economic development of Tarawa. And we just finished just kind of a sidebar, we just finished a technical demonstration here in San Diego where we took new technologies and demonstrated them at the UN's request for the effort to clear up the underwater ordnance that's polluting, the oceans worldwide. And there's no real set procedures for doing that, and so they asked us if we would come up with a procedure for mapping, identifying, and then do the remediation effort for the ERW that's worldwide. Remotely operated vehicle operations. Again, remotely operated vehicles are ROVs. You've all seen that. The Deepwater Horizon accident, there was a lot of very large vehicles there, and it's a point I'd like to make is we have a niche market where we're small and portable. We can get on a plane in 48 hours, be anywhere you want, and be operating. The things that you saw going on in the Gulf with Horizon required very large vessels, very large equipment, large crews, high expense. And we are very portable and highly mobile, just like we were in the Navy, and we just translated that to the commercial sector. So the underwater geographic information systems, we build maps of the underwater. That's the final product that we provide to the client. Here's an example you can see of invasive sand, where we were working at a port in Ensenada for Sempra Energy. We had a 6-year contract down there with them for the underwater services. When they built this 700-meter breakwater and they built this spit that came out that allowed the LNG tankers to come in and offload, it changed the long-shore currents along there, and the long and short of it is the sand that normally traveled along now just accumulated in the area and caused the sand to build up, and you can see their seawater intake systems. It caused a lot of problems, so we're helping to mitigate that issue. But the underwater geographic system is for our information system, port and harbor security. It's essential. When you look at economic development, you look at the vitality of any seaport or any seaside town or that deals in the commercial world. If you were to sink a ship in the channel here in San Diego, and it's something that concerns whatever ships are inside the channel, how do you get them out? Very narrow area. And that's not a problem that's just specific to San Diego. Houston has that problem. LA Long Beach has that problem. What's underwater? What is your port look like underwater? So this geographic, I know you guys don't like to hear that, but what does this geographic information system provide? Well, it provides a real-time picture of what's going on underwater for, in San Diego's case, the Joint Harbor Operations Center, which is the JHOC, which is really a terrific example of collaboration between the port stakeholders. Sorry, and it allows the JHOC has pictures and real-time data for cameras and fence lines and alarms and that kind of thing, but they really don't have a good picture of what's underwater. The Navy has a good picture of what's underwater with their systems and their areas of responsibility, but the port itself really doesn't. And this is just not San Diego, this is everywhere. So we, as a company, had the idea, hey, well, let's map the ports so we can provide that information to the first responders in the event that there's an accident, whether it be man-made or a natural disaster. And there's some photos of us doing some work on the Embarcadero. I think I have to click in the center here. And this is what an AUV looks like underwater. It just runs by itself. It's not tethered. It's like a little torpedo going through the water. And it maps imagery and the side scan on the top, with imagery on the bottom. This is at the Embarcadero. This is the cruise ship terminal. We did some work for the port police a few years back. And then we go down, once we have these targets identified on the bottom, we'll go down with the ROV. And this is a very good day in the bay, these pictures, because normally the visibility is not nearly that good. And it allows the port police, the diving group, to see what's down there. So if there is an incident, they know where they're at. There's some landmarks on the bottom instead of when there's poor visibility, they kind of grope around on the bottom. Being a diver for a long time, I can tell you it's a very difficult environment to work in. This was an example of a GIS we did for the Navy on the San Diego Port Harbor experiment, where can industry go in, if there is a mining, can industry go in and do the work, map this so the Navy EOD teams can come in and clear the problem. And so that's what the Navy wanted to find out. And they planted 6 mines, drill mines, not real ones, in the harbor. And we found 6 of 6. So that was a check in the block for the Navy saying, okay, yeah, industry can do this. Of course, we have a very unique background in that. We did it as active duty. But the fact is that the industry can do it as a force multiplier. If the Navy's engaged elsewhere, we have to have some kind of a capability at home. This is some work we did with the Midway for pre-dredging. The Midway is sitting on the bottom, as most of you may know. And so they were talking about dredging it out. And so we did a survey of the bottom. And we had to identify, there we go, contacts for the dredge company so they don't destroy their cutter head. And this is an example of a bunch of tires on the bottom. But all those little circles around there are all contacts that are on the bottom that could cause a problem for the dredging company. That's a big cement block, a large cement block about the size of a car, so that would be a problem as well. Underwater maintenance, again, this is our client down in Ensenada. We did our contract was from January of 2009 till December of this last year. And it's important when we look at doing business with our neighbors, there are some issues that we run into back and forth with Mexico. One of them, you know, the free trade agreement, NAFTA, not so free. So I'm not really sure what's so free about that, but the tariffs going back and forth going south are very, very high. And that causes a problem for U.S. companies, especially here locally in San Diego. There's a lot of business to be had down there. There's a lot of technology that we have up here that doesn't exist down there, and they want us to work down there. But unfortunately, one of the problems that we run into economically is the tariffs that we have to endure, and then we have to pass that on to the client. And so they can price us out of the market down there, which is unfortunate. But again, we have diving services and underwater videography. We did a video. Sorry, going back. So we did a video of the sea life down there. Mexico City wanted to know what's going on with the LNG facility down there. So they hired us to do a video. Phenomenal video. We have a very talented guy who does this, and they just couldn't believe it. The sea life is thriving down there. So they're being very good stewards, and it's interesting. Energy of Costa Azul is really bending over backwards to make sure the environment is taken care of down there. I mean, the sea life is thriving, which nobody thought would happen. Here's an example of conditioning of the harbor. We talked about cleaning up San Diego. With our side scan sonar, we can image things on the bottom that we later go down and pick up and clean up the harbor. So when we have, I think it's Operation Clean Sweep we have here at the harbor every year. Is that right? It's a great way to identify problems and trash on the bottom. There's a lot of sunken boats still in the harbor that we've identified a lot of them. But again, when it's underwater, out of sight, out of mind. This is an example of a trend analysis that we did for the sand. It's a little bit bigger picture, but in 2004, you can see the sand was, or that bottom was actually just volcanic rock. The sand came in 2008, 2010, and those seawater intakes that you see is this. These are supposed to be about 3 to 4 meters above the bottom, and the sand is just pouring in. So they spent a lot of money having us do diver dredging of their seawater intakes, their pipelines. And they still haven't solved that problem. They're not sure how to do it, but it's a problem that's going to haunt them, I guess, for the life of the facility. Doing Navy work, this is what we call the Mark 18 program. This is a Navy unmanned underwater vehicle, the Mark 18, and it's used in mine countermeasures, and there's a lot of experimentation going on with the Navy that we're eyeball deep in. We do their on-water operations management and their training in this program, as well as consulting for tactics, techniques, and procedures and a concept of operations for the fleets. They lost one of their experimental systems, and so this is just a short video at 664 feet, where we went down and picked up it's slow, and anyway, we went down and recovered one of their experimental units, and it looks like it's not going to work for us. But they took an AUV and they used the truck, which we call the propulsion unit, the battery section, and they put their own sensors on there. Sometimes they lose them. We picked one up yesterday, as a matter of fact. I'm a little blurry-eyed because I've been spending about 16 to 18-hour days over the last couple of weeks. We have a guy on vacation, so the boss goes out in the boat. I woke up this morning, I said, I don't remember it being this hard. My wife told me to quit complaining, so. But anyway, this is where we picked it up, and we're going to move on because this is just kind of bouncing around. Underwater UXO remediation. These areas here, this might look familiar. That's Point Loma and Bravo Pier over there at North Island. These are areas of historic or known ammo dump sites from long ago. They don't do that now. That they wanted us to survey and find if there was anything down there that should be of concern. There were a few things down there, so we did these historic sites. There were 50 of them for the Navy, specifically for NAVFAC, Navy facilities. We did a project for ExxonMobil over in Qatar. Qatar Research was doing a environmental assessment of the reefs in the Gulf. They're very concerned about their reefs, and they really cherish them and take care of them. And so they wanted to make sure that the health of the reefs were doing well. As you may or may not know, the Gulf was the leader in pearl export in the world for a long time, but the reefs kind of died off because they were not being taken care of, and the area was being destroyed by development and dredging, and people weren't really paying much attention to it. So they had us come in and do a side scan and bathy layer of the reefs. This is an example of side scan and bathymetric data, again, revealing what's on the bottom. And we also do some experimental work with local manufacturers. This is a magnetometer that gives a magnetometer reading of the bottom, again, for UXO remediation. General approach, we do the research of the area we're going to be working with. We do an assessment and an operation of the operational environment. We collect data, and then we decide what we want to look at on the bottom, do a reacquire and identify, where we're saying, okay, let's go down and take a look at these points of interest, and then we build the layered GIS. And that is what the final product is we give to our client. And so right now we're ramping up to go up to Santa Barbara to do a UUV and an ROV survey of the oil spill that they have up there. And we're also going to be doing some local stuff. We're going to be doing a 2,000 or a 12,000 foot inspection of the water treatment plant down here in South Bay, or south on the border. We're going to be doing their internal inspection of their pipelines using ROVs. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. We're very small. Nothing like the gentleman at the table. We have 9 employees, but we travel all over the world out of Little Imperial Beach, kind of an interesting story. And you hear those stories about people hatching businesses in garages. Well, we did it at Ryan Brothers Coffee with a couple of computers and cell phones. Sat at Ryan Brothers with Tom and Carmine, and Harry and said, hey, you don't mind if we work here all day? No, no problem. So that's how we started the company 9 years ago. That's it.
So as you can see, maritime industry is not all about yachts and boats, because if you think about it, the world's more of the world's underwater than it is on the top of on top. And matter of fact, I'll give you a little point of reference. The Port of San Diego, when I became a commissioner, had what is known as A8 anchorage. It was right off of National City. It was the only place in San Diego Bay where you could anchor your boat for free. Every other place that they anchored there was a charge. So you don't think everybody in the world wanted to come and park their boats at A8 in National City? Well, when I became a commissioner, I looked at that, and if you went out there and looked at them boats that were being docked right there, they were just junks. I won't say they all were, but the majority of them were. And they were people eventually that ran into difficulties, and many boats got abandoned. And what they ended up doing was sinking them right there. So as a result of that, when you talked about Operation Clean Sweep, every year you can go out there, and the Navy, with the assistance of the Navy, they'll go down and find, still to this day, ships at the bottom of the bay right there on A8. So, I mean, we need to pay attention to what's under the water in order to have a thriving maritime business, because the last thing we need to do is have ships come through and end up hitting something that's there that nobody's known. So the service that they provide is outstanding, and more of it needs to be done. Obviously, with the crew they've got of 11, obviously they can't do it all, but they're headed in the right direction. So at this given time, what we're going to do is we're going to have a couple of questions that I'm going to be asking of the panelists, and give them an opportunity to respond, and then we will have a question and answer series for any of those of you that want to. We okay? Yeah, so anyway, one of the things that I think is key, and many of these companies are very thriving companies, I'd like to be able to talk to each one of the panelists regarding what are the potential job opportunities, and I know many of you addressed that, but I mean, we've got a lot of individuals out here who have family members that potentially could be looking for jobs. So what do they need to do? They need to have a high school education. Do they need to go to the junior colleges, or do they need to go to vocational schools? So I'm going to just go down the panel, and you can give me your thought process as far as what opportunities are there and what they need to do as far as in order to meet your entrance requirements into your area of expertise. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Dookie. The first one within BA Systems, we have a website, basystems.com. You can actually go in and see all the job openings. We're continually training. We're supporting personnel. We have an apprenticeship program. We're working in conjunction with a lot of the community schools to make sure we have the right talent coming into the industry. We're looking to grow, obviously, as the fleet moves. We call it the Pivot West to San Diego. We're looking at probably a 30–40% increase in the manning within our facility. So we're projecting by 2020 needing up to, if we're fortunate enough to win that work, approximately another 500 jobs in the next 5 years. So a lot of opportunities within ship repair.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the major issues that we face right now is, and I think I'm the only one up here that has this challenge. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob. We have to adhere to a new policy, which is a good policy. It's called Rapid Gate. And basically, if we hire an individual that comes into our office, because we do a lot of emergent work where, I need to hire 50 people for 3 months to go out and do a job, and that can turn into long-term employment. But what our big challenge is right now is I have to have them fill out paperwork, and if they have any kind of issues, and it can be sometimes long-term issues, like something they did when they're 21 and they're 40 now, we don't really find out whether they are going to be able to get a base access through Rapid Gate for a month. So I'm going to try to plant a seed here, since there's a lot of influential people here in the audience, and maybe this is something that this can bring about, which I think would be a huge win-win situation, and that is if we could spearhead some kind of program where maybe people that are unemployed, that have maybe had a little bit of a troubled past, where we could create some kind of some kind of program where these people are approved and can work in the Rapid Gate system. I can tell you our end of the bargain would be to hire them, train them, and hopefully motivate them to, especially if it's a recent kind of a problem that they experienced, to change their life. It's worked wonders for us in the past. Unfortunately, when Rapid Gate was instituted 4 years ago, we actually lost a lot of real key employees for things that they did really quite a while back. And I thought that I did think they changed their lives. And, I guess here's my overall view on that program. I mean, this is work that we're doing for the federal government. If we can't employ these people and train them into a trade, what are their choices? I mean, they have to eat, and there's really a high possibility that they might return back to their past. And if they do, then our federal tax dollars goes to take care of them and house them. And I just think that if we can put a system like that together, that we would definitely champion it and fully participate in hiring in those people. But it's a very expensive process to pay the $200 to have them go through the Rapid Gate process, have to wait a month just to find out that they don't qualify and that they're not going to be able to work. Because we are a company that works on all the Navy bases. We don't have a waterfront facility, so we do have to have that kind of access. Thank you.
I think Bob wanted to follow up on that.
Yeah, I've dealt a lot. For those who don't know, Rapid Gate is a security background check that enables you to get an ID to get on the naval station. What happened in the Port of San Diego became the test case for a new process of going back on background checks based on the events that's happened, i.e. back in Washington and Navy Yard, to make sure that the people that were being screened to get access to our national assets did have the right background check to enable them to do the work. What happened is San Diego was selected as the hub, if you will, for testing this new process. So what happened is the investigative service would go back no matter how many years, as Steve mentioned, 30 plus. Well, there was no end. It used to be 7 or 10 years for a background check. We found that employees, even with a secret clearance, could not get a Rapid Gate badge to get access to the naval station. So if you're in high school and you had a suspected DUI, you're pulled over, even if your case wasn't adjudicated, as long as it was still on your record, that was grounds for not getting access to the naval station. So for us, it was really frustrating when you had an employee that was working a ship in our yard for 6 months. The day that ship left our yard and went to the naval station, that same employee couldn't finish his work. So we say, this doesn't make sense. So the National Ship Repair Coalition, we got together, I believe it was about a month ago, actually started in San Diego. We got backing from Cunningham actually went back and wrote a letter to the CNO asking them to go back and review it. Why is the industry being held to a higher standard than DOD personnel for access to a naval station? So there's a lot of things going on right now to try and modify that system to correct it. I agree with what Steve said. It was a major hit for us because at one point I had 200 employees that couldn't get access to the naval station. Fortunately, I had a little bit more leeway because I had ships in our yard that could reassign those personnel. But it was still very disruptive when you had an employee that worked a particular system on a ship for 6 months in the yard, and the day that ship left to go to the naval station, he couldn't finish the job. So, major impact.
Well, I was talking about when I retired or when I sold my business and I get that $10 job and I want that $150,000. I may not be able to get it now, so we'll go on to the next individual. Stan?
In our particular case, we've been experiencing some rapid growth with deployment of the new vessels. In generally entry-level positions, we're relatively easy to find, and we have extensive internal training. One of the things that we're finding out is that we cannot train fast enough to the levels of expertise needed for some of the more technical vehicles. As you probably all know, vehicles today contain anywhere from 35 to 70 mini computers. So the industry has changed, and the technical nature and the diagnostic skills have become much more complicated, and a lot more training has to be put in, and a lot more factory training from the manufacturers, which changes just about every year. We have reached out to the Southwestern College, Sweetwater School District. I don't think we've done as good a job as we can, and it's great to address this forum. That's an area that we see an opportunity where certain curriculum could be put in at Southwestern and Sweetwater School District with the understanding that some on-job training could be done. They could actually train at our facility, see if that's a career that they'd be interested in, probably get some school credits, and we would have a resource for some highly technical personnel to be trained with a very valuable skill that we could either utilize at our facilities or any car dealership that exists. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. We're going to the employment agencies at this point because the labor unions are not able to come up with enough candidates for us when we need personnel. So we see a gap there, and any ideas that we have to partner with National City, Sweetwater, or Southwestern College would be appreciated.
Todd?
I would echo the same sentiment. I'd echo the same sentiment. I think our issue is a lack of I don't even say skilled labor anymore. I'll say labor. We want somebody to show up at work all 5 days. All 5 days, you know, no hangover, no sick, no I went to Knott's Berry Farm, but show up for work 5 days. So I'm going to go deep on you here for a minute. The problem we have is the work ethic of the early 20s coming out right now. I can get a terrific welder who can read a blueprint, got him right out of City College, snuck him out from under Bob before he got there, got the guy down to the yard, and if I can get him to show up for 5 days in a row, that would be great. So our biggest challenge is finding work ethic, and what we're doing at the Marine Group is when we do get our people and we get them to the level we want, part of our preservation of employee program, we call it, is teaching and rewarding work ethic. Things that my grandfather would have smacked me on the back of the head for now gets an ARCO gift card. So, but what Stan was saying, you know, we're pulling as many kids out of the San Diego Community College welding program as we can. We really would like to see Southwestern do this. We've talked to them 5, 6, 10, 17 times about setting up a welding program and can't seem to get it off at Top Dead Center. We offered to supply the machinery. We offered to supply the material. We offered to supply the curriculum. We'd like to see them do that because we want to keep the business in the South Bay. We want to keep the people to live where they work because we think maybe that's got something to do with not showing up for work. If it takes you an hour to get to work and it's a rainy day, you decide not to come. So we want to get that moving along, but we're not as big as the shipyard, so unfortunately we can't run a journeyman program. We can't afford to run it, and we're not in the cost recovery business. You know, we're not charging the government for what we do. Ours is all fixed price, so it's tough for us to have a 40-person training school that allows us to bring those. So we rely on the community college program, but we'll hire everyone we can get.
Todd, before we pass it on, I think you've got the President, Dr. Nish's attention from Southwestern College. I thought she was going to come out of the chair and come after you, but I think you got her attention, and I'm assuming that will get addressed in the near future. We will get to some questions a little farther along. Go ahead, Kurt.
Well, we're a little different animal. As you might have guessed, the skill set required to do the work we do is very specific, and so we usually recruit most of our people out of the Navy, although we do have an internal on-the-job training program, and I do have a Marine who's working for me, and she's doing really well. She's out on the water operating, and she's a commercial diver, weighs all about 90 pounds soaking wet. So we don't discriminate against whether or not you can do the job. If, you know, it's or gender or whatever. I mean, if you can do the job, we want you. It's very difficult to find the skilled labor that we need, and the Navy is our hiring base. Now, saying that, we want to bring people that are here currently in San Diego. Like I had said in the presentation, the UUV or Unmanned Systems Center for the Navy is at SPAWAR here in San Diego. And we want to keep those sailors getting out. We want to keep them here. because they are the core competency that we require for doing our job. And so, is it tough to get folks out of the Navy? It can be. They usually end up taking a pay cut because it's difficult to, the maritime business is extremely expensive. And as it was alluded to about workers' comp and everything else, there's a very large chunk of the revenue that goes to paying insurance fees and taxes and everything else. In California, as we all experience as business owners, is a very difficult place to have a business. They are number 50 of 50 routinely for the last number of years in business-friendly states. So that said, we want to keep the folks here, but it's very difficult to keep them here because there are other opportunities elsewhere where they can make more money and the standard of living is better because their dollar goes farther. But again, there is opportunity here for the folks coming out of the Navy to keep that skilled labor here in San Diego. And we are growing. Our contract with the Navy is growing. We need people that can travel, that are good travelers. And again, we run into a problem just like everybody else does with the younger generation. Are they going to, when they go overseas, they're ambassadors for the United States, company, Orca Maritime. And we don't, pardon my term, but we don't want a bunch of knuckleheads ruining that. They need to be professionals, and you find out sometimes after the fact whether they are or they aren't. We've been pretty lucky so far, so knock on wood.
Thank you. I'm going to respond to Todd's as far as work ethics. All the young workforce coming up now, they all want to be CEOs at 2 years out. I remember when I had my companies, I hired one of my relatives. It's a bad idea to hire relatives. But I hired one of my relatives to come and work for me, and I put him to work with my superintendent. And he came in after a week, and he just says, I'm better than that guy, and I should make more money than that guy. I mean, that's the attitude that the kids have nowadays. They think that they know it all, and it's difficult, the work ethic of today's kids. They want the easy street right off the get-go, so I empathize with that. I'm going to open it up to anybody that has a question regarding the work-related, because I saw a gentleman have his hand up, and then we'll go on to other questions. I'm sorry. We're going to hand out cards for anybody that has a question. I think the gentleman over there in the yellow had a question. Okay. We're going to go on. We'll get to your question, and if you got any questions, please turn them in, and we'll go on to the next question as we're drawing cards. I'm going to go to the panelists as far as, obviously workforce is one issue, and you need more qualified individuals. Can you tell me as far as facilities, and I'm very familiar with facilities. We're at a shortage of having access to enough land to be able to expand everybody's business. So I'm going to go to each one of the panelists and give me their thought process regarding that. Thank you.
The number one challenge since I've been on the waterfront almost 30 years has been parking. Bottom line. It causes the most contention on the waterfront between the community and the industries. It's been that way for a long time. As we grow, it's not getting any easier. We're exploring other different avenues, bus service from surrounding parking lots, ride sharing, leasing additional parking structures that already exist. But the number one challenge for me is the parking situation within the port.
Okay. And I concur with that.
Well, for us, right now we currently have a 2.5 acre site, 5 just west of the 5, and if all of our equipment came back from the 12 ships that we were on right now, we would be eye level with the Highway 5. So right now we are looking for 2 to 3 acres. I think I'd like to point out I'm the only one up here that doesn't have a waterfront location. So if 2 or 3 of those acres come up on the waterfront, let me know.
That was the first question he asked me when we came in, and he says, "You got any land on the waterfront?" Stan?
Well, space is obviously our number one challenge. We're currently involved in discussions with many of the municipalities in the port. We need room to grow. We have business stacked up, and we have opportunities to expand, and that's always a challenge. How much business, how much recreation, how much access to the water. It's a significant challenge for us. We're all trying to come up with as reasonable a solution as we can. Unfortunately, that was the plan when we got here, that we can use every square inch, and if we're successful in growing the business, which we collectively have been, we find ourselves at this impasse. We could use another 50 acres in conjunction with the terminal. There's a lot of discussion about going inland, which could potentially be an opportunity. However, all of the product has to be rehandled. You have to replicate all of the infrastructure, and then you find that you are uncompetitive as a location. And that's been our challenge. And as we work through with the port and the city and our other transportation partners, that's probably the first and foremost goal. Part of the problem is it conflicts with a lot of studies that have been done. There's a lot of aggressive plans, 50-year plan for the Bay, which are wonderful plans. Unfortunately, I think they conflict with the utilization of maritime properties and create challenges for everyone. One of the things that happens to us is we plan our business probably 2 years out. I already have contracts that could be signed, but we don't have the property. So we have to either find another location or redesign who we are and what we are. Are we satisfied to be the size we are? As an organization, we never are. We're thinking that everybody wants to continue to grow. But we'll do this as strategically as possible as we deploy new opportunities. There will be some announcements coming out in the next day or so, significantly doubling the size of the organization. So again, more opportunities that perhaps we should discuss in a forum like this more routinely, so we don't surprise each other with what we can and can't do.
Todd?
We want to preserve what we have. Space is key, and I understand from a political standpoint, and I'm going to choose my words very carefully. I understand that hotels are beautiful. I understand that parks have tremendous value. I understand the public has access to the water, but we have to remember what the water is for. And the water is for maritime and water-dependent uses. So there's no reason that all of them can't coexist, but they must coexist in balance. And that means balance in all 5 members of the port cities. That means balance all over the port. That means you can't say, okay, San Diego, you're going to do hotels. Okay, National City, you're going to do cars. Okay, Chula Vista, you're going to do hotels. And we don't want to see anything else there, but we want to see hotels. We know that part. And you can't do that. You have to have a well-balanced approach, and that's what we advocate for. We advocate for a balanced waterfront that remembers what the Coastal Act says. That's the same Coastal Act that created the Port of San Diego, that says water-dependent uses shall have the highest priority, and that's important.
Kurt? We're very happy with our space down in Imperial Beach.
Okay, thank you. I've got a couple questions. Bear with me as I try to read them. So, for Bob, do you do big commercial vessel work, or is it all Navy work?
Right now, the preponderance of our work is Navy. Probably 98% of the work we do in our facility is U.S. Navy. However, with the new dry dock, we now have the capacity to do cruise lines and commercial ships in the port.
Okay. I don't know if this is a question, but I'm going to read it, and it says, Workshop for Warriors Welding Certificate. There wasn't a question with...
A fellow that just returned from Afghanistan set up a workshop for warriors down on Main Street, about a 25,000-foot building that they're training welders as they're coming out of the service. And some of them have missing limbs, but these folks are dedicated Marines.
Can you stand up so everybody can hear you? Thank you.
It's Workshop for Warriors out of downtown San Diego, and they're dedicated Marines getting out of the service that are trained through certificate levels. I guess there's 5 different certificate levels. If you're looking for welders, they're right here in town. They graduated the first 100, and they'll be doing the GI Bill process also real soon. So we have a built-in workforce for welders. For people that are really looking for jobs and that do want to work, these Marines will do it for you.
Thank you for the very beneficial information. What happens to the BAE? What happens to the dredge mud? Where are you guys dropping it?
Okay. It's actually a very complicated process. Our neighbor, RE State, has set up a temporary pier just north of our facility. They actually dredge the mud, silt, if you will. They put it into a scow. The scow then goes over to a pier where it's mixed with a cement mixture so it can actually absorb moisture. And once it's in that condition, then they load it on the trucks. The trucks go up onto a washing station. Then they're washed down to make sure no contaminants on our freeways. They wash it down. All that water is captured, put in Baker tanks, sampled before it can be disposed of. Now the trucks, as they leave the facility, actually go to a landfill. So I think as of last week, we're up to like 4,500 truckloads so far. So quite a bit.
What's the ETA as far as looking down the road when it's going to be completed?
Okay, the actual dredge, we should be done in the next few months. And then, in fact, we've got a mound of sand in our facility right now. I'm looking at Karen. I had her go down and take a picture yesterday. Because right at the entrance of our dry dock, we now have a staging area where we're putting all this new sand in the facility. So RE State actually has a barge that actually distributes the sand underneath the piers in the area that's dredged. So as a staging area, we've got this huge mound now. That sand, we're going to start applying that over the area that's been dredged starting in the next week. So that'll go through probably October timeframe, November timeframe. The challenge for us is it's not necessarily how long it takes to do it, but trying to jockey that dredging and sand replacement at the same time you're moving ships in the facility. Obviously, we can't dredge when we've got a ship in that footprint, so we have to wait until that berth is free to enable the scow and the dredge unit to go in that location. But the sand placement should be done around October, November. Then the next stage is to start planting eelgrass. So by the end of this year, January, we should be completely done with that project.
I really want to commend BAE and all the other stakeholders involved in this. This was a long, drawn-out process to get to this, to clean up our bay. The port was part of it, BAE and NASCO and everybody else in the city. We're doing the right thing to remediate the bay and clean it up, and my hat's off to BAE and all the other participants. I've got a question here that pretty long, so I'll try reading it, and then if I mess it up, you can help me out. We are only one of 29 ports on the West Coast. Our port is the gateway, the first port of call to the United States. It is further east than Reno, Nevada, and the Port of San Diego is the most prime location on the West Coast. With that said, do you really believe the maritime trade industry, which provides 1,000 good-paying jobs to the region, really a waste to the economy of San Diego? Did I get that? Stand up, please, so we can hear you.
The maritime industry brings thousands of good-paying jobs, and we are the first port of call for Mexico and everywhere in South America. What I want to know is that will we be able to grow? Will we be able to get stronger trade-wise? I'm a longshoreman. I work on the waterfront. I'm a third generation, and what I notice is that. Just like this gentleman said here, that the hoteliers seem to have the upper hand, and there's a mission statement out there that says that maritime is supposed to be first, and loading and unloading cargo should be the main priority for our port. And I would love to see if our port can be able to grow in the industry.
So the question is, can we grow? I'll turn it over to the panel.
I'll start off by saying I certainly hope so, because in this past year and a half, we've invested almost $150 million in our facility to support the growth in this port. Now, when we threw those numbers out to the mayor, we met probably about 6 months ago. There was a gentleman at the meeting and actually said, "Mayor, I want you to understand what Bob just told you. He's investing more in this port than all your hotels combined." So just put that in perspective for you. We're counting on that.
Anybody else want to respond?
Well, I'll just touch base real quick here. This is an article from Sea Power magazine where they quoted Admiral Thomas Roden, and he basically stated that between now and 2020, currently we have 60 ships that are currently home ported here in San Diego, and there'll be additional 19 ships that will be home ported here by 2020. So that's like a 30% growth, which is real strong.
Okay. Stan?
Interesting you made the comment. We actually sit east of Reno. There's a reason we chose San Diego, a reason we chose Grace Harbor. It's the supply chain from end to end, be it import, export, including shipping, rail, and trucking. San Diego is a strategic location to the Pacific Rim. It sits equidistant from Portland, Tacoma to Chicago. It's actually 50 miles difference. The point being is that we can serve North America extremely effectively, Mexico for both import and export. That doesn't happen very often. LA, Long Beach is another location like that, but it's preemptive because it's all going to be container for the most part. Our very high value commodities like steel. To find another San Diego and replicate it from a maritime standpoint is virtually impossible in North America today, in our opinion. So we've gone in and redeveloped facilities that were originally designed for something else. But the reason it works is because it's strategic. I can't tell you how many naysayers 25, 26 years ago said, you'll never make it in San Diego. It'll never happen. It'll never work. It's got to be LA Long Beach. Well, we are now the preemptive and predominant auto port on the North American West Coast.
Anybody else? Todd?
I think absolutely can grow. It's just a function of political will. You've got to reach out as a community to your elected officials and say we embrace balance, and you're never going to get one way. We're not going to wipe out the bay and turn it into a car carrier terminal. It's just not in the cards. So we have to. And I got a soft spot for this. My first job out of the academy was a third mate on a car carrier. So I'm a car carrier guy by trade. But I can tell you that's not going to happen. You have to go in with a common sense, balanced approach and say we need all these elements working together on a waterfront. And if you go in, then as pockets develop and the ability to grow does present itself, they're more embraced.
Okay. Next question I have is, what can the County Office of Education do to provide employment-ready and qualified high school graduates? Anybody? What can the County Office of Education do to provide employment-ready and qualified high school graduates? Sure. Todd. Go for it.
I would say, not work with both not only the community colleges but the high schools and fund the programs. Give them the funding they need to do the job. I think they know how to do the job. They certainly have the infrastructure to do the job. They probably just need the money. This summer or every holiday break, we take 45 high school interns from Sweetwater School District, and we run them through a welding internship at the Marine Group. We take 10 kids for a week, and we cycle them through and let them know what it's like to work for a week. And we've had tremendous success with that program. It's usually juniors and seniors, so we're just starting to see them trickle in, but they want to go to community college. They want to do other things, so they definitely are keen to it. We just got to make it available, and I know the county has the ability to work collectively with the different educational institutions to give them the support they need.
Okay. Go ahead.
We also have an intern program, not only for the high school but for college, and we bring these folks in. We have a GIS intern right now that's finishing up his thesis. He's done a lot of work for scripts and that kind of thing. We have some high school kids coming in this summer. And I think it's important to get the kids out of the classroom and actually get them hands-on. Hey, this is what this is about. You can read about it in a textbook if you read your textbook, and you can look at the pictures and watch TV programs about it, but get out on the water, in our case, and actually run the equipment and see what we do. And it's been very successful for us. The kids really enjoy it.
Okay. I guess this is addressed to Kurt. Has NAFTA become one-sided? High tariffs for goods going into Mexico, but low tariffs for goods coming into the U.S. from Mexico.
I think it is a little, my experience, I'm speaking strictly from my experience, but I think it is a little one-sided. The difficulty of bringing equipment down to work in Mexico, It is very expensive. We find it to be about 25 to 30% of what it costs us to do that. Again, it gets passed on to the consumer or the customer, and it can take us right out of the Mexican market. It's been a very good market for us. We love working down there. The people are great, and it's and we provide a service for them that they don't have currently in Mexico itself. And it helps their economy down there. It helps our economy, and it helps their economy. But I think that there is a disconnect there in being fair. People view the United States differently. It's just the way it is. They view everybody here in the United States as wealthy. And we all know living here that that's not necessarily the case. But I think there's a little bit of advantage taken there. So I'm not sure that there is equality in the NAFTA agreement.
One thing I didn't mention about the Marine Group is 5 years ago, we built a boatyard in Los Cabos, in San Jose del Cabo. I love the statement, there was nothing free about NAFTA. It's a huge impediment to our business, and it's a huge impediment to the South County. We buy all of our goods here in South Bay, and our ability to ship them to Mexico is extraordinarily difficult. The tariff rates have gone from crazy to unreasonably crazy. The ability to move your goods back and forth is virtually non-existent now. I have a semi-load of equipment sitting at a warehouse in San Ysidro waiting for SAT to allow it through. Waiting. Why? Because they want to inspect my scaffolding. For what? Nothing. They just want to inspect my scaffolding. And I'm going to send a semi-truckload of scaffolding. You've seen them going down the street. It's going to cost me $11,000 to import that scaffold to use it for 90 days in Mexico. So they're actually hurting themselves, but unfortunately it's hurting us in the South County because we can't move our goods that way.
You know, when you talk about money, just as an example, we took about $80,000 worth of diver dredge equipment down to Mexico to do some underwater sand removal operations, and it cost us $30,000 to take that equipment down there. And for a small company, that's a big nut to crack.
It's good for National City. I got a 125-foot yacht that was going to be painted in Cabo San Lucas at our yard there and is now in our National City yard. It was cheaper to run the boat up here than it was to pay the importation on the paint.
And who said NAFTA wasn't good? Okay, next question, and I believe it's from Ken, Southwestern College Director of, I'm not sure what it is, but Ken, you still here? Could you stand up and tell me what your question is?
As the demands are needed. So one of the questions I had for
And that's why I deferred the question to you, because it was a little bit longer than trying to read it from here. So anybody want to respond to that?
Well, real quickly, get with me afterwards, and I'll give you my card and contact you. But that is a big problem for us. We have a GISP, a Geographic Information Specialist professional working for us, and when she first came to the office, the learning curve was steep, because we're dealing in data sets that she hasn't seen before, and we're dealing with software from these vehicles that we use, specific software that she's not familiar with, nor is any GIS people familiar with unless they work in the industry. And it's a very small industry right now. It's a big growth industry, but very small. So we'd be happy to talk to you. It'd be great.
Okay. Next question I have is addressed, I believe, to Todd. How do you get your clients for your super yacht business? How does a yacht owner in Hong Kong decide to come to Marine Boat Works? You advertise that you have $170,000 worth of wine there? Is that what it is, or what?
Oh, we fight like a dog. It's tough because it's a worldwide market. So, I'm competing against, I've got a job right now. It's me versus a yard in Spain and another guy in New Zealand. So San Diego, Spain, and New Zealand. So how do you do that? You spend a fortune in marketing. It's a lot of word of mouth, believe it or not. A lot of these large yachts are handled by management companies, so you're reaching out to the management companies, you're reaching out to the broker that may have sold the yacht in transition. The list goes on and on about how we do it, but it's extremely non-traditional. It's not an ad in the newspaper. Believe it or not, it's not an internet presence, although we have a strong one. That's not what gets the initial call. It's word of mouth, it's quality work, and ready for this? It's the community. They want to come to a place that welcomes them. They want to come to a place, and that's one of the reasons, quite frankly, San Diego is very successful. When you get past the boatyard side, we're a very welcoming, friendly community for the yacht crew to be in, and it's a desirable place to come. And so that has a huge part of it.
Okay, next question. You're on the hot seat, Todd. What facilities do you have to print outside? Is that the question? I'm sorry?
No, what facilities do you have to contaminate some of the sandy harbor rivers since you have a large vessel? What do you have in the process?
That's a great question. BAE didn't talk about it, nor did we, but we offer the same program. We're a zero discharge facility, and I know BAE is too. Every drop of water that comes in our yard is captured in a stormwater system. And by the way, this applies for both Chula Vista and National City facilities. Every drop of water gets contained and put into a tank. That water is then tested, and then it's discharged to the sewer. So it never returns to the bay. All of our sandblasting and painting and fiberglass work is done in a shrink wrap enclosure under negative pressure. So we run a dust collector that sucks any fume or any fiberglass or any paint, any debris comes out into a filtration system and never reaches the air. So there's no discharge to the water, there's no discharge to the land, and there's no discharge to the air. And then all of our materials recycled. So any steel that gets off is pulled, any aluminum, anything that can be recycled is. And BAE is the same. They do a wonderful job. We've modeled some of our systems off of theirs. And that's one thing that San Diego's got an incredible foothold on is these yards are more environmentally friendly than any other yards in the world.
Yeah. I'd like to add also on top of that, we have a berm system throughout the entire facility. So even the rainwater that hits the deck in our facility is captured and put in storm collection tanks and sampled before it's discharged. That's the extreme we go to protect the environment.
I live in the community and I see these plastic boats wrapped around not only the military but BAA facility. I just wanted to make sure that the rest of the people knew what it takes to protect the environment.
He's hiding the wine. Any last words from our panelists before we conclude? Anything you want to share that's on your mind that maybe we didn't give you an opportunity to?
One of the things that concerns me about being a business in California, and we mentioned this earlier, is the state is not very friendly to businesses. And we're a very small business. Clearly, we're kind of like the vending truck that pulls up to their businesses. But we've been courted pretty hard from Texas about moving to Texas. Texas is #1 import, according to the governor's office there. Kevin Graff, I've been talking to the Texas governor's, he's the business development guy there, and he said their #1 import, business-wise, is California companies. And there's a reason for that. And as we grow, we want to stay here in California. Both my business partner Tony and I live here. We have our families here. We enjoy San Diego very much. But there may come a point where, you know, as a business decision, we have to leave because it's just too expensive to do work here. So as a business community, and as you know, having some political clout here in the audience, it's a serious problem, and companies are leaving every day, and that's something that is going to come to a head here in the next few years for California. Just food for thought.
God, I hate Texans. Anybody else? Would you all join me in thanking Dookie and our panelists very much? And to conclude today's event, I want to invite two of our partners, Dr. Melinda Nish from Southwestern College and Sharon Cloward from the Port Tenants Association, to give us some closing words. Ladies?
Thank you, Cindy. I hope that you've enjoyed this morning as much as I have. I am the superintendent president at Southwestern College, and what you may not know is that my academic expertise is economics. And anybody that can give me a 7-to-1 multiplier really gets me thinking. But you know, part of what I love about the community college is the passion that we have for economic development. And I'm a member of the board of the South County EDC. I've been involved in the visioning program, and we quickly realized that one of our primary sectors is our maritime industry. So I'm really pleased that we have these 5 fabulous maritime industry representatives here to talk about their businesses. I want to thank the port. It was about 2 years ago that they put me on a boat and gave me a tour so that I could see from every angle what these businesses do and where they're located, and really have an understanding of how important they are to our community. And I just want to let everyone know that this is the kind of conversation that we do need to have on a regular basis, because we're all partners in growing our economy. From my perspective, I want to be sure that I'm making that linkage to get those workers into where those jobs are at, and that they have the soft skills and that they have some of those hard skills as well. So I'm really pleased that we have been awarded in the San Diego area over $13 million in a career pathway grant, just announced this week. And the point of that grant is for high schools, community colleges, and employers to create that network. Clearly, this is one of the industries that we've identified that should be part of those career pathways. So I look forward to working with you, Todd. Yes, you have. Yes, you have asked. And, you know, we all have our obstacles and structural impediments. And I want you to know that in the audience today, we had our Deputy Sector Navigator from City College. I told her that we were not supplying enough welders and that I needed to partner with City College to be able to get those welders to you. She heard it firsthand. She texted me and said, we're going forward. So. But I do want to thank everyone here, and I want to thank everyone in the audience, because this is the type of community partnership that we need to have so that we understand where business is going, where our maritime industry is going, and what we can do to support and grow it. So thank you, everyone, for attending today.
I want to thank all of you for sitting here for so long. My comments are going to be very, very short. First of all, I'd like to thank Cindy Gomper-Graves from South County EDC and her staff for putting this maritime panel together today. Of course, I would also like to thank our panelists. You know, I took my job at the Port Tenants Association in 1989, became president in 2004. Now, today, you have a little picture of what I get to enjoy every day. It may be May gray out there, but we have the happy light on in here. And it's partnerships, so really support everything you've learned today. It's all about conversations and telling your neighbors and your friends. We have a great, great, bright future for San Diego, and I just want to thank you all for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.
Well, in closing, thank you very much. This would not have been a success without each and every one of you showing up, so thank you very much, and we really appreciate it. Have a good day.
All right, nice seeing you again.
Gentlemen,